Hi, friends. Today we're going to keep reading our book called Amazon Fever. So, in our first two chapters that we read, if you haven't listened to that, you can go ahead and go to our weekly templates or my YouTube channel and you can find those videos. But if you are ready, then we're going to continue. In chapters 1 and 2, a little boy named Jeff and his uncle Roy go to Brazil to the Amazon rainforest, and there they're going to try and find some butterflies for Uncle Roy's museum. But Jeff is hoping that he can find some jaguars. So we're going to see what happens. Chapter 3 is called The Jungle at Last. The next morning, some of the scientists from the farm were getting ready for a research trip. They were heading into the jungle. Can we go with them? I asked. I don't know, Uncle Roy said. The jungle's a wild place. Do you think you're ready for it? He had to be joking. Let me at it, I cried. Uncle Roy laughed. No way he was going to pass up a trip like this. I helped the scientists pack food, camping gear, and the special butterfly traps. They said we would be studying the areas where butterflies lived. We'd also collect new butterflies for the farm. If we're lucky, said Uncle Roy, we might even see a ghost wing butterfly. So that's an interesting word, ghost wing butterfly. That must be a kind of butterfly. A ghost butterfly? Maybe there was more to this butterfly hunting than I thought. So on the next page, it looks like it's kind of different. That I noticed that the text that they're using is different, and it's kind of a different format. And if I read the title, it says Field Journal Day 1. So it looks like this might be Jeff's journal. So I think he's writing about his experiences and his trip. So let's see what he writes. Let's see what they do on day 1. We drove for most of the day. Then we set up camp at the edge of the forest. Suddenly, it was raining buckets. We dashed into our tents. Uncle Roy put our camera into a plastic bag to keep it dry. As if anything here could ever stay dry. Guess that's why they call it a rainforest. So this could be another thing that we put in our KWL chart, in the L part, things we've learned, that it rains a lot in the rainforest and things don't stay dry. When the rain stopped, the air was hotter and stickier than ever. The ground was mucky. Now it's evening. Oh, sorry, that's the new part. Now it's evening. Boinging, scritchy, scratching, whirring, hooting, thumping sounds are coming from the forest. Uncle Roy says it's bugs and tree frogs. But how can little bugs and frogs make such huge, weird noises? They must be monsters. No way I'm ever going out there. So if we look at the picture, it looks like he's in his sleeping bag, and it's looking like he's kind of scared. Plus he's saying, no way I'm ever going out there. So it's funny because he was really brave at the museum and he was saying that he wanted to find a jaguar, but now it seems like he might be a little bit scared of the rainforest. And I noticed that the tree frogs, we just learned about tree frogs. That could be another good thing to add to our KWL chart. There are tree frogs in the rainforest. Okay, so now this is the end of his little journal. Up and at 'em, Uncle Roy shouted early the next morning. I remembered the monster noises from last night and sank deeper into my sleeping bag. You'd better go on without me, I shouted. High in the treetops, the parrots were squeaking and the scarlet macaws were squawking. So I'm going to teach you another little trick, friends. I see right here, it says the parrots were squeaking and the scarlet macaws were squawking. So I think the scarlet macaw is an animal since it's squawking. Like squawking is kind of like a noise that birds make. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to type it into my Google search engine and I'm going to see, because I would like to see a picture of it. I can't really get a picture of that bird right now. So I'm just going to go over to Google and maybe you use another site that you like. But I'm going to type scarlet macaw. Oh, and I'm going to click on images. Okay, so now I can get a really good visual in my head about what a scarlet macaw looks like. So this is a really, really beautiful bird. And I could even add this to my KWL chart. Scarlet macaws live in the Amazon rainforest. And I love how it's got so many different colors. The end of its wings are blue. It's a really beautiful bird. Okay, so now I can picture that in the treetops, in the trees, parrots are making noise and the scarlet macaws are also making noise. So I like imagining that. Uncle Roy unzipped the tent door and motioned me out. Nervously, I went to help pack up our tents. This was it. We were going in there, into the jungle. It's what I had wanted all along. Now I wasn't so sure. I watched a lizard amble out on a branch to enjoy the morning sun. He seemed friendly enough. Suddenly, I heard a deep, howling roar. Jaguar, I thought. I dove into one of the parked jeeps. So a jeep is a kind of car, this car that he's in. He dove, or like he jumped into the back of it. Just listen to the howler monkeys, Uncle Roy said to the other scientists. Okay, so now we know that that sound he heard, that roar, was howler monkeys and not a jaguar. I crept out of the jeep, hoping he hadn't noticed. He looked over at me. Something wrong? I'm fine, I said, slipping on my backpack. Nice monkeys. We started back down the trail. A small tea-colored river was to our left. The dark green forest was on our right. Uncle Roy handed me a butterfly net. No thanks, I said, waving the wimpy-looking thing away. That will be no help with jaguars. I tried to look brave. It says he tried to look brave, but do you think he's feeling brave right now? I don't think so. Now, Jeff, said Uncle Roy, I don't know about seeing any jaguars, but I do want you to be careful today. Remember, always look before you put your hands or feet down. The jungle is full of... Oh my gosh! He stopped so suddenly I almost crashed into him. What? I cried. I was afraid to look. He pointed to a wide, muddy patch on the riverbank. It was covered with hundreds of yellow-green butterflies. Pirids feeding in the mud, Uncle Roy shouted. Now I'm going to go back to this word. Pirids. Okay, so it's something feeding. And it looks like there's yellow-green butterflies. So I think that maybe this is a kind of butterfly. This pirid is a kind of butterfly. Tasty, I said. We stopped and watched them for a long time. The scientists took lots of notes and collected a few butterflies. Later, they found some pirid pupa attached to the leaves. Okay, yeah, so since there's pupa, that must be the kind of butterfly. So they found some pupa of that kind of butterfly. How do you know these things are pupa? I asked. They look like bird poop. They look like that so birds and other enemies won't eat them, Uncle Roy explained. Ew, good idea, I said. I guess all of these butterflies were not so dumb after all. Okay, so I know that now this, the pupa, they look like bird poop, but that must be kind of like a camouflage thing that they do. The pupa look like bird poop so other animals won't eat them. All right, so now we have Jeff writing in his journal again. So let's see what he says. Field journal, day 2, morning. While everyone was busy watching butterflies, I watched for danger. First, I spotted what looked like an alligator floating in the river. Uncle Roy said it was a caiman. Now, I'm going to make sure I said that word right. Caiman. I can use my trick. Okay, so yeah, it's caiman. This one doesn't have a little thing to help us say it. But it says any of several Central and South American reptiles closely related to and resembling alligators. So it's an animal kind of like an alligator. Then there were the snakes. A giant anaconda can swallow a caiman in one gulp. Uncle Roy says anacondas don't eat people. Right. So this is another, some other things we could put in our KWL chart. We have caiman, we have anacondas. These are all animals that we know now live in the rainforest. He warned me again always to look where I put my feet. Some types of poisonous snakes like to hide in the leaves on the ground or under fallen logs. And did I mention the bugs? I was watching out for snakes when a hairy tarantula strolled right past my feet. I had never seen such a big spider. He is a monster. Still, no jaguars. This is another thing we could add to our KWL chart, friends. Tarantulas also live in the rainforest. All right, so that is the end of our chapter. In our next video, we'll keep going with chapter 4. But let's just do a quick review. He's now in the rainforest and he's journaling about lots of different animals that he's seeing, like caiman, which are like alligators. He's seeing some pupa of butterflies. He's seen an anaconda, a hairy tarantula. So let's see what happens in our next reading. All right, see you later.